Hello everyone, and welcome to today's video. Today we're going to look at 2.0a, the equation of a line. So recall in the past that you have seen these formulas, especially in grade 9, of m, which is our slope, which we refer to as rise over run. You might also know this as delta y over delta x, which is the change in y over change in x. But in this section here, we're going to focus on using our m slope formula, which is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So we're first going to take a look at horizontal and vertical lines and looking at finding some equations of this line A and line B. So we're going to look at horizontal line A here. We're going to choose 2 points and determine the slope of horizontal line A. So let's choose this point over here of 6 and 2. So any 2 points will be fine. And just for the sake of this, I'm going to choose this point of minus 3 and 2. So this one here is 6 and 2, and this one here is minus 3 and 2. So for our slope, it's always important that you start with your equation to avoid making any mistakes later on. So we have y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So just for the sake of space on this page, I'm going to put an equal sign on the same line. This is not allowed. Make sure when you do start a new line and you run out of room that you put an arrow to indicate that. Okay, just to make that quick disclaimer. So here we need to label our points in order to sub these numbers in correctly. Okay, so that's one hint that I do want to give you. Always make sure that you label. This is the first one that I see, so I'm going to label this x1, y1. This is the second point that I see, so I'm going to label this x2 and y2. So y2, we have a value of 2. Subtract, which comes from our formula. y1 is also 2. x2 is 6. Subtract, which is from our formula, and x1 is minus 3, so we're going to stick that in a set of brackets. So this is going to be 0 over 6. This makes a plus, so that's going to be 9. And that's just going to simplify to a value of 0. So our equation of our line 1 with an m of 0, we can write as y is equal to 0, x, and the intercept, which is b, you can see right here, our y-intercept. Okay, so that b value is equal to 2. So we can say our equation of this line is y equals 0x plus 2, or simply y equals 2. Another way that you can look at horizontal lines is taking a look at where this line passes through a particular axis. So notice how, I'm going to make this a little bit larger, this is our y and this is our x. Notice how this horizontal line passes through the y-axis at a value of 2. So that's how we can also simply just write this equation. And you can do that for any horizontal line. It's wherever it passes that y-axis. Okay, we're going to take a look at the vertical line here, B. And again, we're going to choose 2 points and determine the slope. So I'm going to choose this one over here, which is 5 and minus 2. And I'm going to choose this one over here, which is 5, and we're going to say minus 6. Okay, so this is 5 and minus 2, and this one here is 5 and minus 6. So if we want to find the slope of this vertical line, we're going to start off the exact same way. So slope is equal to y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Again, do not put equal signs on the same line, but just for the sake of space, we're only going to do it for this example. So again, let's label our points. I see this one first, so I'm going to call this x1, y1, and I see this one second, so I'm going to call this x2 and y2. So our y2 in this case, it's going to be nice and easy to refer back to our labels. We're going to have minus 6, minus from our equation. y1 is minus 2. And x2 we can see is 5. Subtract x1, which is also 5. So here we're going to get minus 6 minus minus 2, which is minus 4, over 0. So if you try to put this in your calculator, you're going to get some sort of error. Okay, so that means that we can't have any m value in our equation. Okay, if the equation is supposed to be y equals mx plus b, this error changes things a little bit. So an easy way to think of how to create an equation for this is, again, look at what axis this vertical line is going through. It is going through the x-axis at a value of 5. Okay, so x is equal to 5. Okay, you can see that it's going through this axis right here. So there we have our equation of our vertical line. And this goes for any vertical line. If it was going through here, that would be x equals 2. If it was going through over here, this would be x equals minus 8. Okay, and you can maintain that pattern through any of these vertical lines. So what we can say for the slope of a vertical line, we use the word undefined. Okay, so the slope of a vertical line will always be something called undefined. And the slope of a horizontal line, as we saw before, will always be 0. Okay, so a line that rises to the right will have a positive slope. And a line that falls to the right will have a negative slope. Okay, so points that lie on the same line are collinear. All points that lie on the same line have the same slope. So if you have a line that goes like this, and you have 2 points on the same line, this is what we call, these points are collinear. Okay, and both of these points will have the same slope since they are on that line. So let's take a look at example 1 here. We're going to calculate the slope of the line through points G of -7 and 8 and H 4 and 8. So to find the slope, again, given 2 points, we're going to start with our formula. So m is equal to y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Again, do not condone writing 2 equal signs on the same line, but just for the sake of space. So once again, that tip, make sure to label these. So we're going to label this x1 and y1, and we're going to label this x2 and y2 to make it easy to concentrate and substitute these numbers correctly. y2 is going to be a value of 8. Subtract y1, which is also 8. x2, which is 4. Minus, which comes from the equation. And then x1 is minus 7. So this is going to be 0 over 2 negatives make that positive. So this is going to be 11. And that's going to be 0. So in this case, our slope is going to be 0. So since this is 0, this is going to be a horizontal line if you plot these. There's no rise in this case. There's only the run going sideways. Okay, so let's take a look at the general equation of a line. So the linear equation in slope-intercept form is y equals mx plus b, where m is the slope that we've looked at, and this b is the y-intercept. So when you want to determine the equation of a line given 2 points, okay, specifically, you're going to determine the slope using the slope formula, just like we practiced a little bit earlier. You're going to sub this m value into your general equation along with one of the given points of x and y. Okay, when you sub this in for x and y, you're going to solve for that b. And then last but not least, you just put them all together by putting the values of m and b into your final equation. Okay, so let's actually do an example of that given 2 points here. So we want to determine the equation of a line. Again, as soon as I see this with my brain, okay, I'm automatically thinking of y equals mx plus b. As soon as it's asking for the equation of a line, that's what our final answer is going to look like. Okay, so it passes through the following points, a, 4 and 8, and b, 5 and 7. So just by looking at this equation, it kind of gives you a hint too of what you have to solve for first. You can see this m comes first, and then this b is the second variable we have to find that comes second. So first thing is, let's find what our slope is. Okay, so the m is equal to y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So I see this one first, so I'm going to call this point 1, which is x1 and y1. This is point 2, which is x2 and y2. So even though you can see they're so far apart in this question, just by labeling it, it's going to help us concentrate a little bit better. So y2 is 7, subtract y1, which is all the way over here, which is 8, over x2, which is right there, which is 5, subtract, which comes from your equation, 4. So we are going to get, if we just continue to simplify, minus 1 over positive 1, and we can just simplify this nice and neatly to negative 1. Okay, so what we currently have with this slope right here is this equation. So we have now y equals minus 1x plus b. We don't need to write this as minus 1 because that can be treated as invisible. So we're simply going to write y equals minus x plus b. So you can see here that the only thing that we're missing is this b value. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to use a point, any point that lies on this line. So you can see we have two options in this case, and we can substitute that in for this y and this x value. So I am going to use the point, let's see, I'm going to use this point 4 and 8. Again, you would get the exact same answer if you use the other one. I just like these even numbers here, so I'm going to choose that. So we're going to use this point 4 and 8 to solve for our b. Okay, so remember, this point here has the xy coordinate. Then what we're going to do is we're going to take this 4 for x and sub it in for x. And we're going to take this 8 for y and simply sub that in for y. So how we can write our new equation now is instead of y over here, we have 8 is equal to minus our x value is 4 plus b. And now we simply do, bring this over to this side to isolate for b on its own, so that we get 8 plus 12 is equal to, oh, sorry, not 8 plus 12, my mistake. We're going to get 8 plus 4 is equal to b. We get 12 is equal to b. And always for proper form in mathematics, you write your variable first and our number second. So now that we found this b value, we're going to put this information together to create our final equation. So therefore, our equation of our line of interest is this minus x because of our minus 1 slope. Because this is a value of positive 12, we are going to put plus 12 as our y-intercept. So there we have our equation of a line in slope-intercept form, passing through both of these points here. So if you were to put the point of 5 and 7 in this case, you would get the exact same b value of positive 12 that we would input over here. Okay, let's take a look at our last example. So example 3, determine the equation of a line that has a slope of minus 3, 4 and passes through the point 6 and 9. So again, we want to find the equation of a line. So our goal is to have something to look like y equals mx plus b. This question kind of made it super easy for us that it already gave us our slope. Okay, so this is minus 3 over 4. So what we can say is that our equation, again, that needs to look like y equals mx plus b, already looks like this. Y equals minus 3 over 4 x plus b. Okay, so remember, the only thing that we're missing now is this intercept value. So what we're going to do is we're going to use the point that we're given for x1, or for not for x1 and y1, simply just for x and y, that we're going to substitute into the appropriate spot. Okay, so we're going to use the point 6 and 9 to solve for the last variable b. Okay, and once again, this is x and y. So looking at our equation, instead of y, we're going to substitute 9 into there. That's going to equal minus 3 over 4, x, which is 6, and then plus b. So now it's just a matter of simplifying. You have this minus 3 over 4 times 6. This is going to be over an invisible 1. When you have fractions, we multiply across. So in this case, we get minus 18 over 4 plus b. We're going to bring this over to this side, and that's going to turn it into 9 plus 18 over 4 is equal to b. In order to add these fractions, we need a common denominator. So this is over an invisible 1, and we're going to multiply this by 4. What we do to the bottom, we have to do to the top. When we do that, we're going to get 36 over 4 plus 18 over 4, and that's equal to b. When we add these two together, we're going to get 54, and we keep that denominator of 4. And we can reduce this very slightly if we divide the top by 2 and the bottom by 2. What you do to the top, you have to do to the bottom. And you're going to get 27 over 2 is equal to b. But very importantly, we write our b is equal to 27 over 2. So looking again at what we had, which is our equation right here, okay, our equation of the line is going to be minus 3 over 4 x. Let's take a look at our intercept. It was positive 27 over 2. So we're going to go ahead and throw in a positive sign just like that. If this was negative 27 over 2 that we calculated, we would put a negative sign here. One thing I do want to make sure of to point this out, sometimes students do forget to put this x value in here. Please make sure you don't forget that, because remember, our equation has to be y equals mx plus b. We can put a nice big square so it's easy to see as well for our teacher marking it and for seeing our homework. And that concludes our answer. Thank you all for watching. Have a great day.